What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things, and it has been a few weeks since I received my Onewheel, and I've really only put about 10 miles on it. It will definitely take a few more riding sessions until I get very comfortable on the thing, but my excitement to share this stoke with you cannot wait any longer. So today I'm bringing you guys my initial review of the Onewheel XR. At the heart of this beast is the Hypercore brushless motor, which, as you can guess, is built in-house. This thing pumps out more than enough power, allowing you to crush hills and float pretty much anywhere you can imagine with a top speed of close to 20 miles per hour. Another genius design feature is that the axle running through the motor also acts as a heat sink, pulling out a lot of the heat that is generated when cruising hard and fast. The entire board is encased in machined billet aluminum rails, not just some cheap, stamped, bent aluminum, and needless to say, this thing is a complete tank. One of my favorite things about the Onewheel is that there's no remote. All of the control comes from sensors in the front and rear foot pads, and they are linked up to what I can only describe as a mind control device. You think about moving, you move. You think about stopping, and you stop. Now, dismounting is where there is a little bit of a disconnect, but we'll talk about that later. There are intelligent LEDs in both the front and rear of the Onewheel, and they act as headlights and taillights depending on which way you're moving. Headlights and taillights are actually fitting terms because this whole thing is wired up using highly durable automotive connectors. Fast charging is supported, which is a huge plus because once you start riding this thing, you're not going to want to get off of it. And this, being the XR version, has an increased battery size, giving you approximately 12 to 18 miles. To top it all off, the Onewheel also comes with an app which is hands down the best, most function-packed app I've ever used when it comes to riding electric boards. The connection is established over Bluetooth, and it is insanely easy and quick to connect. Once you're paired with your board, you can see everything from the battery percentage to the speed and distance traveled, all the way down to crazy information like the pitch, roll, and yaw angles of the board. The main feature you will end up using in the app is probably going to be the digital shaping. This allows you to choose different riding profiles, which drastically changes how the board feels and performs. If you can't find the exact fit for the type of riding you are doing, then there's also the custom settings, where you can create your own profile by adjusting the carvability, stance profile, and the aggressiveness of the board. So as you can tell, this thing is just packed with crazy technology, and it definitely feels like one of the most futuristic things that I've ever ridden. As you probably know, I have ridden pretty much every worthwhile electric skateboard on the market right now, and this thing is just in a league of its own. Now, like I said in the beginning, I really only have a few riding miles with the Onewheel, but we're still gonna go on a little cruise today, and then you guys can sort of listen to me ramble and try to explain what the hell this thing actually feels like. Check it out, I finally got a helmet. Now you guys can stop giving me crap about it in the comments section. Alright, so the first thing that you want to know about the Onewheel is that when you turn it on, it has to be touching the ground in the riding position. If you turn it on while it is standing on the end like this, it is not going to move, so you're going to have to turn it off, place it on the ground, and then turn it back on. So once it's on the ground, you simply press the button and it will turn on. It's hard to tell in the bright sunlight, but the headlight and taillight are now on. Now, to mount this thing, you want to put your back foot on first and then slowly put your front foot on. Once you have both feet on, you will slowly bring it up to balance, and you don't need to slam down like you're dropping in on a half pipe on a skateboard. You're going to place your foot on the front sensor pads and then slowly rock your weight up, basically just balancing on the Onewheel. And then once that motor engages, it actually balances itself. Now, before you take off riding, one of the most important things that you are going to want to learn is the dismount. You guys saw my first attempt at that. I was on carpet, I wasn't wearing shoes. Obviously, it didn't go too well. The front foot sensor pad is actually split into two different sections on each side of the board. So to disengage the board and then dismount, all you have to do is either lift your toe or your heel. So as I lift my heel and it comes off of that back sensor, the board disengages and it will drop back down. There are two other ways to dismount that I find a little bit easier. If I simply rotate my foot without actually picking up my heel, simply rotate it 90 degrees so that I'm only standing on one foot pad, and then it obviously turns off. Now, in an emergency situation, if you find yourself hitting too many bumps or just going too fast, you can jump off with both feet at the same time. This is where things get a little bit tricky because it's just not natural to jump with both feet when you're balancing on something like this. A lot of times you'll see people step off like I did in my first impression video, and then that's when things get out of control and you break stuff in your house or wherever you're at. I can't stress enough that the dismount is the most important thing that you will learn before actually stepping on one of these. So a simple jump off dismount like this, it works every time. Now once you get a hang of that, actually mounting and dismounting, you should be ready to ride. So the first thing you will probably notice is that I'm riding on rocks right now. This is like a little river trail that kind of follows the river for a bunch of miles. I do plan on trail riding this thing because you can take it literally anywhere. For this video though, I'm going to stick to the pavement and sort of go around town. It's technically not a city, it's not city riding, but we're not taking it off-road just yet. As for the testing right now, I am riding it in the digital shaping mode, which they call their cruise mode. I think I will have to save my thoughts on all of the different digital shaping modes to ride in for a future video because there's so much to talk about. But this cruise setting will limit your top speed. It makes the board fairly responsive and just kind of cruise type feeling. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now, to move forward, you simply shift your weight forward a little bit. Now, it's not so drastic like you're standing on an Indo board and you like really have to shift your weight around. Like I said, it feels like the foot pads are connected to like memory control devices. Like I said, I've only ridden this thing for about 10 miles now and it's just coming as like second nature. Once you get the hang of it, you really just think about going forward and you go forward. You think about stopping and you stop. Now, turning is definitely something that takes a little bit to get used to, and I think that is because it is very similar to riding a snowboard or riding a motorcycle. When you first get on the board, you're obviously going to be kind of scooting around at low speeds, and much like a motorcycle or a snowboard, it is much more difficult to turn when you are going slow. You do sort of shift your weight forward and backward like toe side and heel side, but if you don't have some sort of speed, you're not going to have the same ability to make those carves. Now, I don't want this to be like a riding tutorial, but I think once you do get on it and start moving around a little bit quicker, you will find that the turning comes a lot easier. I think the best advice that I could give would be to sort of imagine each corner of the front of the board, and then if you want to make a carve to the left, you sort of imagine sticking that corner down into the pavement. There really isn't a whole lot of input that you need from your body, but as you can see, with a little bit of speed, this thing carves like I'm floating through powder. Now, the same thing works when I want to turn towards the right. I simply dip that front right corner down into the pavement, and then you sort of get that nice flowy carve. Like I said, this thing is unlike any kind of electric skateboard I've ever ridden, and I've ridden a majority of them. So now I'm just gonna sort of cruise around town, maybe find some hills, maybe even a little bit of trail riding, and then I'll just enjoy riding it while I can, because it is cold out, and chances are I'm not going to ride this thing to its full battery potential today. Here's the hill where I test all of my electric skateboards on. This thing just powers up it, no hesitation at all. Now for the even steeper part, keep in mind that I'm still in the cruise mode. I'm not in the high performance delirium mode. And this thing just performs, dude. It's unreal. Now, I did notice when coming up that hill that the technology in the board sort of changes the ride characteristics a little bit. The board senses that it is using more power and that I am going up a very steep hill, so it actually changes the nose positioning of the board. Now, that is also something you can change with the digital shaping. If you know that you're going to be riding hills and only hills, you can actually tilt up the nose angle of the board, but it is also very cool that the board just picks up on that stuff. It knows how you're riding and what you're doing, and it will accommodate whatever you're doing. Now let's see how it does going downhill. It should regen a little bit of that power back. This hill is so steep. I can actually see real time on the app that I'm going about 8 miles per hour down this hill, and I've already regened 1% of that big battery. As I'm regenerating more power, the mileage that I can actually go is going up as well. So that is really cool. One thing that I don't want to forget to mention again is how free my hands are right now. I'm obviously holding my camera out in front of me and my other hand is completely free. That is definitely not something that you get with most electric skateboards. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but having this hand free just feels like you have way more freedom when compared to riding an electric skateboard. Well, I know I said I wasn't going to take this on any trails today, but riding right next to this thing, I kind of have to do it. Riding the one wheel just gives you the confidence to go where you typically would not take an electric vehicle like this. This scenery with the river and everything right here is way better than just cruising around town. Now, one thing that you will probably notice is that this trail is all really small gravel and it is kicking up into that fender well that I installed. If you guys have not seen the video on that fender install, I'll leave a link for it right up here. So it's definitely doing its job by keeping all of these rocks off of my foot pads and my jeans and my shoes, but at the same time it can get a little noisy. So like I said in that video, I will probably end up coating the inside of this liner eventually. Now this does sketch me out a little bit because every little bump and crack is a chance of you flying off of your board. Luckily this trail looks pretty well maintained, but I would definitely recommend getting comfortable on the one wheel on asphalt or just flat, smooth pavement, cement, well before you take it onto any trails. This is so cool. I love being outdoors and everything, but I have never really been a city person. I love electric skateboards, but you can't take them in places like this. This trail too is perfect. It is very well maintained. There's little sticks and rocks and bumps and stuff here and there, but the one wheel, it's just so big, it sucks up all of that stuff. And I'm definitely going to come back here for a future video and see if I can do this entire trail. Today it is probably like 35, 40 degrees out, so it is very cold, and of course, cold conditions like that take a hit on battery life. I don't think this thing will actually last a full 18 miles today, but I'm hoping I can get around 12. This lock over here is all frozen over too. We'll soon be able to play hockey over here. We're back on the pavement. Man, this thing is going to be so much fun. You know what? Let's keep it going. Handles grass just fine. Handles rocks, great. Now, I know I stressed about the dismount of the one wheel being very important, but there's also another feature that you guys will want to be aware of before actually pushing the limits of this thing. That is what is known as pushback. Now, pushback is exactly what it sounds like. It is the board pushing back at you to tell you that something is wrong. It's a very similar feeling to how the nose sort of elevates itself when you are going up a hill, but you may also find that feeling when you are hitting close to the top speed of the board and the mode that you are riding in. If you are starting to experience pushback, you really have to slow down. If you keep pushing the board past its limits, it will either be drawing too much power or it just simply won't be able to handle whatever you are doing to it, and then you will find yourself in what they call a nosedive. The board will simply shut off, the front nose will dive down into whatever you're riding on, and you will go flying off of the board. You definitely don't want to do that, especially at this thing's top speed, because it's not slow. Pushback is also something you will feel when the battery of the board is getting a little bit too low. It's just a simple way of the board telling you, hey, we're soon out of battery and you're going to need a recharge relatively soon. Like I said, this thing is packed with technology. It knows when it can and cannot do something, so listen to the board. I actually just got a notification on my phone from the board. It says, battery alarm, your Onewheel battery has only 50% or less left. It's time to turn around. That is a great feature, especially for trail riding like this, where I park my car and I'm just going somewhere where I have no idea where I'm at. That will give me my 50% mark, and technically right now I could go back and do the entire loop that I just did. So far my top speed overall on the board is 18 miles per hour, and so far this trip I went just over 6 miles, so I'm gonna keep riding, enjoying my time out here, and then I'll come back and give you guys my final thoughts of the first 20 miles of the board. Alright guys, back for my first 20-mile impression of the Onewheel Plus XR. If it's not obvious, I already love this thing. It sort of fits into a realm that I didn't really know that I wanted or needed. I mean, obviously I wanted it because they just look like so much fun, but now that I have a little bit more experience with one, I can already tell you that this thing is going to go on many adventures from here on out. You can explore a little bit on an electric skateboard, but nowhere near as much as you can on something like this. I first got into electric skateboards because I didn't have a car. I was living in a city and it was super easy to get around very quickly, and you could pick it up and carry it into stores with you. I still think a traditional four-wheel electric skateboard is good for something like that, but this just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. And doing the things that I do now, living in the area that I do, this thing is way more fitted to my lifestyle, but at the same time it can be put into pretty much any role that you put it in. Now, does this mean I am done with electric skateboards? No, definitely not. I'm still gonna review them and test some out that actually catch my attention and seem worthwhile. But for the most part, I think I've made a full conversion. It's only been about 20 miles, but I definitely think that I am more of a fan of the Onewheel now. So that's gonna be it for my first 20-mile impression. If you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more content revolving the Onewheel in the future. If you have any questions on things like the fender install or these frame overlays that I put on here, I will leave links to all of that stuff in the description down below. And I guess that's going to be it for today. So if you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week, and that's gonna be all. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.